Hello, welcome back to another episode of Hue I Do. I'm Toniah.
And I'm Ashleigh.
And we have a lovely guest today. Kathryne, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I am Kathryne Carter. I own Grace and Virtue Events. I'm a wedding and event planner based in Silver Spring, Maryland.
We are so happy to have you on today's show. Our topic is it may get a little bit sad, but yes, we're so excited to talk to you today.
We're a family and we're a support system. So yes, it's necessary and we're here to support.
Exactly. For those that are listening, we are discussing today how to memorialize and honor your loved ones that have passed away on your wedding day. Very, very time-sensitive topic if you consider the world that we're in currently. So we are excited to talk to Kathryne about this very, very somber topic. But before we get into all of that, let's, kind of get to know you a little bit more. So how long have you been in the industry and what were you doing before?
So I started planning weddings. My first wedding was my mom and my stepfather's wedding in 2009. And he has since passed, but that was my first wedding and introduction into wedding planning. I've always been a planner, especially I was an RA in college, planned events, did things like that. I actually have been in the special education field for about 13 years, and I planned events for that as well. So I have done planning for all of my life. That's who I am as a person. And when I did their wedding, I really wanted to explore that some more. So I did some friends' weddings, family stuff, family events, some baby showers, and really just loved it and knew that I had the skills. I'm really family oriented, so I'm very passionate about family events and special events and weddings. They're my favorite. So, yeah.
Oh, love it. Love it.
Yes.
Definitely you need a planner that is passionate and especially the respect in the family part. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
A wedding is essentially a big old family reunion. It's a big old family event. So, and it's the joining of two families. So, yeah.
And the fact that you're organized as well makes a huge difference. So,
yes. Mm-hmm. I love a list.
Good. Well, before we get into the meat of everything and, go down this kind of sad-ish rabbit hole that we're going to go down, we're going to play a quick game of this or that. We're going to play a quick 2 or 3 rounds where, for those that don't know what this or that is, you pick between this one or that one, option 1 or option 2. And it's always wedding themed for us. So to start off, Kathryne, I'm going to ask you to answer first, but would you opt for a memorial table, or would you, and this is, this feels very kind of who's really asking for any of this, but would you go for honoring your loved ones with a memorial table, or would you go for the signature cocktail named after them?
Ooh, good question. I would go for the signature cocktail only because I think it's cool to be creative and to add kind of your own spin on your wedding. It's your wedding. It should be made up of who you are and what you love. And if that loved one meant, so much to you, I think, naming it after them is totally a great idea. I love to be creative. So I think that's a creative way to honor them.
I like it. What about you, Toniah?
I think I'm going to go with the table, just because on both sides, granted, I'm not there yet, but on both sides of the family, we have lost, some close loved ones. And so I would definitely want their picture to be displayed, so those family members that actually attend the wedding can actually know that we have, honored them. The table.
Okay. Good one. All right. Second question. So shifting to more just kind of general wedding stuff, would you invite people to the wedding through digital form, like an Evite or paperless post, or would you send the old-fashioned paper email? I mean, not paper email, paper stationery.
Invitation, yeah.
I
think I would do the traditional stationery just because I love the paper and the nostalgia that you feel and getting mail. I love that feeling. But that's a hard one because, man, I would want to do both probably. But I'd pick the stationery.
Gotcha. All right, Toniah.
So y'all may be surprised, but I'm gonna take the frugal route.
I already knew you were about to say that. I was going to say Toniah's about to be cheap.
That's okay.
I'm thinking back to all of the invitations that I have received and where they are right now. They are literally in a box. They're in a box and they're like on top of each other. And I don't know when or if I'll ever take them out and display them, partially because it's not my wedding. It's
throw them
their
away.
wedding.
Take a picture of it to keep it somewhere and then throw it away.
Yeah, you could start a digital file. That's cool.
Yeah.
But
or like a photo album of like the ones that you really, really love, right? So like the ones that are generic or anything like that, you can part ways with it if you want. But like the ones that are meaningful to you, if there were family members or a best friend or whoever, like the meaningful ones you can put in like a photo album.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I received, I went to Indian wedding last year, and of course, like they go all out with their invitations. It's like a little book, so I'm definitely going to keep that. But yeah, that's a good idea, but still frugal all day.
All right. All right. So the last round, would you wear heels for the ceremony or like, I don't want to call them kitten heels, but like something that's like maybe 1.5 inch or shorter? Which one?
I'm going to say probably a flat or a kitten heel or something small, just because John and I are about the same height. So I don't want to be too much taller than him, but I also want to be comfortable. So I'd probably wear something close to a flat.
Yeah.
And there's some cute flats out there.
There are. There are. And I mean, if the dress is long enough, you don't really see the shoes anyway. So, or
I do like a combination of like a little heel and then switch them out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with a heel, in the beginning, but then I'm probably going to switch out to sneakers or flats.
Of course.
To be honest.
Yes. Of course. Oh man, I feel that 100%. If y'all know me, I am a Birkenstock fan, so I always joke with Ed. I'm like, I'm gonna wear Birkenstocks.
You could always do those high heel banging shoes and have them in your pictures and your flat lays, but you never have to wear them. Nobody's gonna know.
Oh, that is true. That is so true. Okay, I like that. Ed will be listening to this, and he's gonna be like rolling his eyes so hard. But you know what?
Those fancy stilettos, because there are some bomb shoes that are heels. And sometimes it's like you wear them for 5 minutes and like you might be like, okay, I need to take them off. But like they're gorgeous.
Yeah,
really gorgeous. So you might not have to wear them, but you can take pictures of them.
I like that because I haven't worn heels like in forever. So yeah, that was a great idea. And that was a fun little game of this or that. So now we are going to take a quick Selah for this ad, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Ashleigh and I would love for you to go to iTunes after you listen to this episode, of course, and let us know how much you love us or offer us some feedback. We would really appreciate that, and that would help us out a lot. We wish you all much love and success. Now let's get back into this episode.
And we are back. We're here with Kathryne, and we're talking about a very hard topic that people don't want to think about because no one really wants to talk about death. It's a very depressing and kind of somber conversation or even thought to have because it's something we're all going to experience at some point, but no one wants to think about it before they get there, right? And in the state that we're currently in, where we've been, dealing with this virus in the U.S. since parts of the country since January, probably the majority of the country since March. We're in August, so at least 5 months, going into 6 months of this for the bulk of it. And, there's been a lot of us that have actually lost somebody due to COVID-19 or, someone that might have passed away because of something else in this time frame. I had a coworker that passed away of cancer the week we, like the week after, like the first week we started working from home. And he had it for a while, but the majority of us weren't aware of it until like maybe earlier in the month. So we only really knew that he was sick maybe for like 2 or 3 weeks before he passed away, like knew the severity of it more than anything. And I mean, like I think about like my mom had a coworker that passed away very suddenly at the end of May due to a stroke. And there are just a lot of, there's been a lot, you know. And so when you are getting married, you want to do something special for those people that you wish were there. I think sometimes, you know, like we've seen a few ideas, a few of the popular ideas time and time again, but, you know, we like to think outside the box and try to think of like multiple ways and like multiple things that, you know, just for you to consider, whether you're a bride or a groom that's going to get married, or you're just listening just because, you know, you're just listening, or if you're a vendor, this might be an idea that you could pass along to your couples of, you know, kind of what to do. So we're so happy again, Kathryne, that you're on. I know that was a very long intro to all of this, but we're going to get into the meat of it all now.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. And like you said, it is a hard topic, and there are a lot of people who have had loss, and we want to honor that. We want to respect that everyone grieves in different ways, manners, time frames. And especially if you're considering, you know, having a wedding within the next few months, within the next year, we want to honor that loved one that you lost at your comfort level. So it's important to be aware of how you're feeling about it and how comfortable you are sharing that with your guests, or sharing that with your wedding party, or sharing that, you know, for sure you want to make sure you're sharing that grief with your loved one and your partner. But we do honor that it is a loss, and it's a time that we want to celebrate, but we also want to honor those loved ones.
Exactly. All right, Toniah, take it away.
Okay. If a couple wants to honor their loved ones, what vendors should you tell?
You absolutely want to tell your wedding planner, especially if they're helping you with full planning or partial planning services. They can help you kind of navigate those details, think of ideas that will help you kind of get through the process. Like I said before, it's at your comfort level. So you want to make sure that you let your planner know if there are any ideas that you have that you want to consider that might include some vendors like your florist or your caterer or your baker, or the venue even might be a good way to kind of include them and kind of give them a heads up, especially if there's a feature or a skill that they have that can contribute to, you know, that loved one. Especially, you know, if it's their favorite flowers, you want to let your florist know, like, hey, like my mom loved these flowers, or my loved one loved these flowers. We want to use these as our wedding flowers. So I would say, especially your planner, but any vendor that would contribute to supporting and honoring that loved one.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea as well.
Kathryne has prepared for us like a very amazing list of ideas, far better than anything you could have ever Googled or even tried to think of on your own. So we're going to kind of go through each one and just kind of discuss it, and, you know, like how it can apply to a couple, how to actually implement it, and, you know, just kind of like go through all of them. So Kathryne, take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity. And like I said, I want to make sure that couples or anyone thinking about honoring their loved one on their wedding day or event day, even, that they remember that it's at their comfort level. And the way I think about it is 2 ways: either a private remembrance, where you do something to honor that loved one, but you kind of keep it to yourself or maybe your partner or your loved one. And then the other way is a shared remembrance. So you're sharing that memory or that love that you have for that individual publicly and with your wedding guests or your event guests. So I'll give you 2 kind of examples before I kind of go through the list more in detail. Mm-hmm. So a private remembrance would be do one or 2 things. Wear their favorite scent, their favorite perfume or cologne. You could wear that either your wedding day or your wedding weekend. That just kind of helps you kind of think about them, kind of remember, you know, when they wore that scent or, you know, what have you. And then another private way could be having something of theirs that you wear. So we all know of the something owned, something borrowed, something blue, those types of things. It could be something that they previously owned that you carry on you. Or even, I love this idea, I saw it once, sewing their name into your wedding dress or your tuxedo jacket or onto a handkerchief that you carry with you throughout the day. I think those are really sweet, private remembrance opportunities for you to kind of remember them in that private way. And then for shared, I mean, we talked about it before about the memorial table, right? So a lot of people want to do that memorial table. I think that's lovely. I think that's a great idea. And if people are looking for ways to do it a little bit more different than just a memorial table, you could do a wedding, any of your wedding signage. So their favorite quote or their favorite Bible verse or their favorite song lyric, and having that on your programs, your menu, or, a lot of weddings, they're doing the welcome signs with the calligraphy on the mirrors. You could do, welcome to Ashleigh and John's wedding. And then at the bottom, it's your, that quote that loved one loved or something like that. So you can kind of be creative with how you want to honor them and remember that loved one. But I think it's important to remember to consider how you're feeling and how you're going to feel on that day. That day is already so emotional. So if you think that you want to do something more private to still remember them, but then be able to kind of carry on with the day, then something private is appropriate. But if you're okay and you're comfortable, doing something shared with your guests can also be a good idea too.
That's a good idea. I never really would have thought about like the private ways to remember someone, because I feel like you always see the memorial table is probably the most popular one. Or sometimes, you might see like other little ways where there's like some signage that lets you know that like there are people here that we wish were here, but, have passed away. I never thought about something as simple as like just wearing like a scent or something that just like reminds you of them throughout the day. And it doesn't have to be necessarily something that like you tell everybody about or you tell anybody about, but maybe like you tell your photographer and they can like, if it's a cologne or a perfume, like maybe when they're doing that flat lay, they can incorporate that in there as well, or,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I like that.
And for the memorial table, you could make it even something more special by adding items that belong to them as, those details on that memorial table, and make sure that those items are included in the detail shots that the photographer and the videographer take. Something you could do to make it more private is take a picture while you're getting ready with those items. So maybe all of your guests don't see that and they don't experience that, but you do. You get to, have that perfume bottle or that favorite pen or that watch or that locket that they used to wear. And you have those items on you when you're getting ready on your wedding day. And then your photographer or your videographer can capture those pictures and capture those moments. And you can have those to cherish.
I absolutely love that. Like Ashleigh was saying, like I would have never thought about the scent, because that's something big, because you always remember how your loved one smelled, so that's definitely like one of my faves.
Thank you. I'm trying to go through another way that you can do a public remembrance is with the memorial table, have a book or some note cards, some pretty stationery to match your invitations or something. And you can have your guests write a note of their favorite memory with that loved one, or something that they remember that's special, or something they wish for the couple that they know that loved one would have wanted for them. Just sharing those sweet moments that the couple can cherish later on, I think is a sweet public way. I know I talked a little bit about doing things creative. You can also do that version through a photo booth or video booth and having those videos recorded. I know a lot of photo booths and video booth companies allow you to get all of that digital footage once the event is over. So you don't have to like go and do anything extra. You get all of that footage at the end of the night anyway. And so a lot of people are going to do those photo booths and put on all those fun signs and costume and things like that. And then separately, they can send a sweet message of, I know your mom would have wanted to be here if she could, those types of things. And making sure that they honor that loved one and saying they would have been so proud and so happy to be here and just continue that sweet message and well wishes for the couple. So you can do that video as well.
I like that idea. And I think it, like, with immediate family members that passed away, and no matter like what the time frame was, or if there was someone that like was actively kind of like within the engagement period has passed away, I feel like that could be something where it's like, oh, you're like someone, you know, like an uncle passed away suddenly. Like last September, my uncle passed away. Yeah, it was 2 months after we got engaged. And so I think of something like that where it's like, oh man, like if a certain song came on, or, you know, and you're in the video booth at that time and it's like playing in the background or something, like that could be a really great kind of like, you know, like Uncle so-and-so would have loved to hear the song, right? Or, you know, or like,
absolutely.
Oh, you know, he's here with you because, you know, like this is on, you know, like I'm just picturing like that. I think that is a really awesome and unique like way to remember someone.
Like, I think that's also a great way to drive people to the photo booths, because as of lately, you know, speaking to other vendors, people get the photo booth and no one actually utilize the photo booth. So I think that's another way to drive people to the photo booth, especially if you really, really want one. So.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And Ashleigh, you mentioned music. So a couple of ways that you can, you know, honor your loved one with music is playing their favorite song when the wedding party walks down the aisle. And that can even be private or public. Like your guests don't have to know that was their favorite song, or maybe they do. Another thing that you could do with music is, you know, having, you know, I mentioned earlier, having the song lyrics on your stationery and different things like that. You know, there's different moments that we're all touched by different things, you know. Yeah. Some music might touch some people more than it might touch others, or smell might touch some people more than it touches others. So you just have to think of what makes you smile when you think of that person, what makes you feel positive and feel good and make you feel happy, because it is your wedding day and you want to enjoy it, but you also want to kind of make sure that you're remembering that person in a sweet and appropriate way. I know we talked about, you know, music and other things, but like those jewelry pieces, those are important as well. And like wearing the locket and you know, having those things available to you throughout the day. So whether it's music, whether it's a personal item, whether it's, you know, a scent that they're wearing, any of these options can work for anyone. And they can even personalize it. Couples can take these suggestions and make it their own. They don't have to do it exactly this way. And I think that's one of the things that I love about weddings, and doing things in a way that makes you feel special, in a way that makes you feel like you honored them, you had a beautiful day, and you can remember this for forever. And I know some of the traditional ways, so we talked about memorial table, but previously I know people used to do like leaving the seat open with a rose on it. I think something that's sweet is candle lighting, and doing it kind of in a manner of where you can have a family member light that candle or series of candles. If you've lost multiple loved ones, you can light, you know, a candle for every loved one you've lost, or two. And then you can have the family member or someone special light those candles. I think that's a sweet moment and a sweet way to include a family member. And hey, you've had this loss, sharing this celebration and this remembrance with me. I think that's another sweet way to kind of incorporate those loved ones, especially if it was a loved one that may be a little bit removed, like an aunt or an uncle. You can have, you know, their son be an usher, or you can have their son say, hey, you know, be a part of the wedding process and light these candles for us, or, you know, different things like that. There's different ways you can incorporate other family members too, because it's not just your loss either, right? The rest of the family has experienced that loss as well.
I think that's a great idea. I'm definitely here for like including family in the wedding in some form or fashion, whether they're a greeter or like a part of the bridal party. But I think that's really sweet. And I love candles. I know Toniah loves candles too. I really like that, like having that moment in the ceremony where it's like a family member comes up and lights the candle. Whenever I think of candles, you know, I usually think of like the unity candle. So I like that this is like another way for you to incorporate candles, especially if you do enjoy candles as well, but to honor, you know, those family members and not just lighting one, but like if there were, say, like 6 people that passed away, having 6 different like candles to kind of like, take that moment of silence to kind of honor them and their presence and the fact that you wish that they were there with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think something else that a family member can be included in is, reading a special poem that reminds you of that loved one, or, reading a lyric, or, whatever that signifies that relationship. You can have them read that as a part of the ceremony. I've seen a lot of weddings where family members, they sing during the ceremony. You can have all of those different types of moments and still honor your loved one through those different things. And, one couple may have their family member sing a song that means something to them and something to that loved one that was lost. And in another wedding, it might mean something totally different. So it all, it depends on your comfort level and doing what is sentimental and meaningful to you.
I agree. One reason why I'm excited that we're kind of going through this is because I think sometimes we see, and this is just like with everything in wedding planning, sometimes you see like 3 or 4 things that are, that frequently get recycled because they're popular, they look cool, they're either the thing of the moment, or it's just like, when you think of a certain element of the wedding, you think of this. So you don't really think outside the box of like other ways to necessarily achieve that same kind of experience or feeling. And so this list, we're not done by any means, but like the fact that there are so many different ideas for so many different people. And it seems like every idea you can either do privately or you can share it with your guests and the attendees of your event, the wedding. So I'm here for it all.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to make sure that I talked about in the beginning, sharing it with your wedding planner and some of your wedding vendors, but making sure that if you do have a wedding party that, you share with them, like what's going on, what are the significance of the different things that you're doing, so that they're aware and they can help support you through those moments. I think that's important as well. And one of the things that we didn't talk about so far is food, right? So food is the heart of a lot of people's homes, right? And you can display their favorite food during cocktail hour or have their favorite dinner served during your main meal, whether it's plated or buffet. I think there's a lot of different things that you can kind of play around with and be creative with, incorporating like food elements throughout the wedding and celebrating that person's life as well. Dessert, oh my goodness, there's so many different things that you could do, and there are so many different vendors who, I've created this brief list, but there's other wedding vendors that could take this list and kind of expand it and say, oh, with the cake we can do this and we can do that. And I think each vendor that you talk to can share a different element or share in that experience and kind of identify with you as the couple and help you kind of get through that process.
I absolutely love the food idea because I would have never, I know earlier we talked about like the signature cocktail, but like you never really think of the dessert or the main course. Cause I'm even thinking now, like I was really close to my cousin who passed away. She made the best macaroni and cheese, like hands down. So like now I'm thinking like, dang, like I can actually honor her, and maybe even name this, or talk to my caterer about, hey, make sure the macaroni is on point because this is going to be, a way that I'm going to honor my cousin. So
Absolutely.
I never thought about that.
Absolutely. Or you could even, telling your caterer as well, but then having your station there or whoever's doing your programs or your menus or whatever, having those custom cards and then, like you said, putting that person's name on it. So when guests come up and they get their food, they know that this was, put in your cousin's name, Blank's food or, Blank's mac and cheese or that type of thing. So absolutely.
I think, and just kind of like thinking back before we like get into the other questions, I think my favorite ones, so I'm getting married in October, but it's just going to be the 2 of us. And then we're going to have the big to do next year, hopefully. And so I was always thinking of like doing the memorial table, but I really I love the scent. But I'm trying to think like now I need to I know like my grandpa, and because my grandpas have both passed away, but I was closer to one than the other. And so I'm thinking like, okay, what are the different ways? So I would probably do, like maybe, the respective tables, like the reception tables and even like the ceremony seating, like have a special place where it's like at this table, like this is a spot for Wilton, and at this table there's a spot for Homer. So that is technically like 7 people at a table instead of 8. Or I
love that idea.
I mean, like you basically inspired this. Like, I mean, like the note cards, and even like just, I mean, you were saying, Toniah, like because you were talking about Marcia, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would have like Marcia's mac and cheese. Like you could also have like the note card with like her name there too.
Yeah.
So it's like she's also still very much a part of this.
Yeah,
playing the favorite songs, that's going to happen definitely.
Yeah. So I'm going to actually backtrack to the note cards, like, or you can actually name the tables after like your family's name. Or
I love that, because you can, and even like with, how we have table numbers for each table, you could name each table if you had, loved ones on both sides of the couple that, lost loved ones. You could name the tables cities that those family members were born in, or that meant something to them. Or you could name...
Okay, Kathryne!
Right? Kathryne's snapping.
Or you could name it after, last names in the family. So, some families have multiple last names. They're all connected.
Yeah.
You have cousins and aunties and uncles. You could do it where, your main tables were the last names of those loved ones that you may have lost. And then as you go, like, let's say you have 10 tables, maybe your first 4, you lost 4 people that meant so much to you. So you have their last names, assuming that they're different, as those tables. But then you can go on and add on, if there's other family members that are in that group of all your guests, having their last name as a table name, those different types of ways to include everyone. Like, we're all family. We come from different, branches of this family, but we all connected to grandma or auntie or whoever it may be. I love that, you can change up those table numbers, and they can be anything that's significant to that person. It could be all different types of cities. Maybe they traveled, so all the cities they've been to, or all the places they would have went to or wanted to go to. Mm-hmm. You can kind of switch it up and be creative about how you remember them.
I like that.
And like, now that I'm thinking about this, even if, assuming that, you may not have a huge family, but like maybe your best friend's mom was very close to you, or, or something like that, you can also honor them as well, especially if they were very close to you, and they meant a lot to you. And, like, say if your best friend is your maid of honor, you could like have this as a surprise to her. Mm-hmm. I'm like, even though it's your day, but you can also, surprise her and be like, hey, your mom meant like a lot to me. So,
and if you wanted to have that be a private moment, you could wear
exactly
anyone, any item that belonged to her perfume, or, have her name stitched on a handkerchief, like any of the ideas we previously talked about. Yeah. Depending on how you want to go with it. If you wanted to have that public moment and have her, last name, whatever, be the name of the table that they're sitting at, or you want to make it private and you do one of those sweet moments, wearing her perfume or wearing something that belonged to her, a ring, a locket, a watch. Any one of those things could work and would mean so much to that best friend.
Exactly.
I love this. I think of a couple we talked to last year, Sandy and Kareem. Sandy's father had passed away, and so I think they had kind of like the locket with his photo around her bouquet. And a wedding I also attended last year, her father passed away as well, and so they did the same thing to like bring her father into the wedding ceremony, and it was like he was walking her down the aisle. I think that's I love that idea. I mean, honestly, all of these ideas are great. I don't think there's a bad way to honor your loved ones. It really, like you said, it's more about like, what are you comfortable with do you need to have a private moment, or do you need to have a shared moment, or do you want to have a shared moment? Because some people don't. Some people don't. They know themselves. So it's like, if I, have like Luther Vandross Dance with My Father Again as, like that song playing or something, I'm just going to, be a ball of tears or something. So like, maybe it's not that, but maybe, I know his favorite color was green. So I'm going to paint my nails green that day, or like incorporate more greenery in the floral design and all of that. So
absolutely. It could, if there's a favorite theme, like one of the ideas on the list was, if there's a favorite theme, like they loved a favorite TV show or favorite, fill in the blank, you could have that as your wedding theme if you wanted to, incorporating their favorite colors, like you said. Those are all great ways to make sure that you're honoring that memory. Even if you shared an experience with them that you want to make sure that you incorporate it. Like, we went on this trip and we did this, so we want to incorporate the food from that location in this trip, or, what have you. There's so many creative ways that you can incorporate that loved one and those memories, those cherished memories. I helped a friend of mine a few years ago with her wedding, and her mom had passed, and I recommended the picture frame and the bouquet. And that meant so much to her. And I know, having lost my stepfather and my mom and my stepfather, their wedding was my first wedding that I ever did. My mom, after my stepfather passed, gave John, my boyfriend, some watches and some cufflinks that, belonged to him. And I know John, receiving that, he was really touched by that. So, I could definitely say, hey, John, would you mind wearing, Pop's cufflinks or his watch? And I'm sure he would want to, as well, on our wedding day when we get married. So I think there's so many different ways that I'm in love with all these different ideas of ways to remember loved ones. Like, I think it's so sweet, and it's just remembering what you're comfortable with and knowing what's going to make you feel more emotional. And it's okay. That's part of your grief journey and your healing process. That's fine if you're not comfortable with all these things. You don't have to do all of them. You could pick the smallest one. You could pick the one that's the most meaningful. Couples, like, the planning process is so in depth, and I think talking these things out will definitely help help couples think about what are the things that they want to highlight about that person. What are their favorite things that they want to make sure is captured in their wedding day and included in their special day. They're not here, but they're not forgotten.
Yeah.
Man, this conversation is like making me all emotional. I'm like trying my best, like, to hold back the tears, but I love every single, idea that you've come up with. And I think our listeners are definitely going to appreciate this as well.
I agree.
So one of the areas that we didn't cover was transportation. And I know we were talking about that there's so many different things to think about when you're planning your wedding. But for transportation, like, if your loved one had a car that they had and that they loved, like, I know for my stepfather, he loved his Cadillacs. And we did, after he passed, we did sell his Cadillac. But if we had kept it, or if my mom had kept it, and, if I was getting married around that time, I definitely like, can I ride in the Cadillac to my wedding? Or, that would have been like our good night car, at the end of the night, the couple leaves, that could have been our good night car or whatever. But transportation is another way. I know there are a lot of people who are car people, or there's a lot of rental companies, so you can rent, a car from an era that family member loved, or, if they love the 60s, you can rent a 60s car or whatever it may be. Those are different ideas that you can incorporate. Like, if you wanted to incorporate something special for transportation,
I love that.
That could be public and private, because everyone will see the car and they wish you good night, but they don't have to know that, hey, that car, we got that one specially because, this loved one loved Cadillacs, or this one loved, 60s cars, so it can be kind of like a special thing either way.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, because I mean, I think of like fathers and uncles and like dads and stepdads that like, I mean, I know women love cars as well, but sometimes you think of like, you know, so and so love that muscle car or like love this, you know, this type of car from this time, or like, oh, you remember they had this Volkswagen Bug, or like, I mean, it could be anything. You're like, oh, you remember they have that BMW, the '89 BMW, like whatever it is. And there's, yeah, you can like, if you don't physically have that car, you can rent it. And that, oh, I love that way. Oh, that's so cool. That's a real cool one. I like that.
I would say that for any category in wedding planning, there is something you can do to honor your loved one, no matter what it is. You might have to be a little bit more creative and maybe talk it out a little bit. I think talking with your wedding planner or, you know, a family member, whoever, just to get the ideas out, and then talking to more specifically to your planner to kind of help you execute those ideas. But I think just talking it out first to like, why is it important? Why is it significant? What does it mean to you? Will you be more emotional about this, or will you feel happy? Like, I think if you're able to kind of answer those questions beforehand, it'll be more meaningful, and you can enjoy it more and experience it more on the wedding day. Because the wedding day goes by so fast anyway. Yeah. And so I think the things that you are putting in place, you want to enjoy them. You want to be in the moment. You know, you don't want to have to be like, oh, I put this thing in place, but I didn't even get to enjoy it. I saw the memorial, you know, I thought about doing this memorial table. I gathered all the pictures, but I never saw it. You know, you want to make sure that those things that you're planning for and that you're including in your wedding day, you get to actually experience, whether it's public or private, you know, shared experience or private.
And one last idea, and I just thought about this because it's what we're doing. My fiance and I are getting married on my grandparents' anniversary. And so using dates as a way, you know, whether it was someone's birthday, one couple that we talked to earlier this year, they, you know, of course, COVID messed up all of us 2020 girls. So they were supposed to get married in September, but they ended up getting married last month on what would have been her mother and father-in-law's anniversary. So it was a way for them, because her mother and father-in-law both passed away this year. And so it was a way for her and her husband to continue that lineage of like, you know, another generation of a successful marriage. And she loved both of them. And if she's listening to this, girl, I got all this off your Instagram, but I really loved the fact
that is very sweet. I love
it was such a sweet tribute, because it was like, we all have to find ways to kind of pivot and, you know, do things. And she could have just like, you know, gotten married at home, stuck with the same day and move forward. But for some of us, or, you know, for some that think like there actually is a day that has some value or actually has some weight to it, let me honor that loved one or loved ones on that day, whether it was their birthday or an anniversary or just a day that was very special to them. Like, so
absolutely, I love those ideas. And even if, you know, if a couple picked a wedding date that was significant for them and meeting for them, they can still keep that date and celebrate a wedding, you know, an engagement party on that date that maybe the loved one you know, had a birthday or an anniversary. They can still honor that those other dates that are not their wedding date, and still have, you know, celebrations. They can have, you know, a family brunch. Like, we're bringing all our family together. Today would have been our loved one's birthday. We want to celebrate. They come together and have a, you know, a brunch, assuming that, you know, with all the restrictions that we have in place, it's allowed. But, you know, there's still ways that you can honor those dates. And I love that, Ashleigh, that, you know, thinking about, you know, maybe we're getting married on grandma and granddaddy's wedding anniversary, or their, you know, mom's birthday or whoever, and still honoring those dates. I think that's important and a lovely idea. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Toniah?
Yes. Okay. So if a loved one is very sick or terminally ill and can't physically attend the wedding, what can the couple do to celebrate with them?
If you can be around those loved ones safely, you can take pictures with them in your wedding dress and your tuxedo after the wedding or before the wedding. You can, if you can get there safely and be around them, you can do, have your photographer come with you and do those portraits beforehand. If you're not able to do that safely, you can have your caterer set aside some, a plated meal or whatever the wedding food is, some cake, whatever, set those things aside and send it to them so they can still kind of have a piece of the day. You can make sure that, you send them the wedding favors. You can have the virtual participation option where they're participating virtually through Zoom or whatever video platform you're using during the wedding day. And you can also have a private moment with them where you do a Zoom call or some type of FaceTime call before the wedding or after the wedding to just spend a little bit of time with them, have a sweet moment, and include them on that special day. I know it's hard when, I know during this quarantine, it's hard because some of our family members are a little bit more immune sensitive than others. So we want to make sure we're keeping everybody safe. But if you can safely do it, make sure that you can at least get to them. At least at the end of the day, the wedding happened, you send them pictures throughout the day, and you're getting to see them at the end, and they get to see you in your wedding dress and your tuxedo.
I love that. Especially especially if it's like your grandmother can be on a FaceTime call or on a Zoom call, and, be there while you're getting dressed, not, like naked or whatever, but you know what I mean?
Putting your dress on. Yeah.
You're like putting your dress on. Yeah.
Or getting your makeup done. And
exactly.
And those like special moments, before the ceremony.
Exactly.
Those are all great options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. My next question is there a limit on how many people to honor?
No, I don't think so. I think if you've lost a significant number of people and you want to honor them, this is your wedding. Do what you think is best. Consider how you want to honor them. If you want to honor them publicly and making sure, you're having that memorial table with all their pictures, all of their, personal items or different things like that. Especially if you're honoring multiple people. If it is multiple people and you have enough tables, you could name those tables after them. That there's so many different ways that you could honor them. And even if you wanted to honor them privately, that's okay too. You could do any of the options that we talked about today, but there's no limit. I wouldn't suggest that there's a limit. Whatever you feel comfortable with, celebrating and honoring their life on your wedding day, I think is appropriate.
I like that. So there shouldn't be a limit, to be honest.
No. Because we can't control if we lose a loved one, right?
Exactly.
Unfortunately, there have been people who may have lost multiple people, either at one time, unfortunately, or people back to back, consecutively. Yeah. And that's a loss. And they're allowed to feel that loss and honor those people that they've lost.
Yeah, I remember, I think back to 2018. So my grandpa passed away November 2018. January, unexpectedly, a cousin, same side of the family, passed away. And then I want to say a month later, an uncle passed away, still same side of the family. So it was my grandpa's brother and nephew that both passed away within a 3.5 month span. And it was just what in the world is going on? But I mean, when I think of whenever we do have our bigger celebration, I do want to honor all three of them because they all would have been invited, whether they would have been able to physically make it or not. So yeah. Next question.
That's definitely, I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh gosh. The last few years have been a little rough. I feel like I went through a stretch where I didn't really have anyone pass away. And then it was just all right, we're at this age now where this is the thing that happens. So I kept,
it's even harder when it's unexpected. I have a best friend who lost her father, my best friend from high school. And it was very unexpected. He was posting on social media the day before he passed. And I remember liking that post and and kind of just seeing, all the things that he was up to, because he was kind of like a father figure to me growing up in high school. So I was very, thrown off by, wait, what do you mean he passed away? Like,
yeah.
So I can't imagine for, my best friend from high school, like, and her children who were very close to their grandfather. So
yeah,
it's when it's unexpected, I think it's like any loss is hard. Any loss is hard. And everyone grieves that loss differently.
Right.
Especially when it's unexpected, it's kind of like you're in shock for quite some time, Yeah.
No, definitely. I like when I think of, because it got to the point where I was like, I just need to create a list of everybody. So I don't forget, because I had a friend that passed away earlier this year. I had a cousin that passed away in January. My uncle passed away in September, and then like my grandparents and like a great aunt and like just different people. And I'm just like, okay, I don't want to, and this is just my side. We haven't even gotten to my fiance. So I just I don't want to forget anyone, or if, say a cousin comes, but that was their mom or that was their sister or something. I don't want them to feel like, well, they didn't do anything for me, because you will get into that. Sometimes if, it's sad that sometimes people don't think that, crazy, their wedding is not actually for you, but you might get into the, the family politics of well, you did this for Uncle so-and-so,
right.
but, I used to babysit you up until you were 3. Well, I'm 35 now, or whatever the thing is. So it's the relationships have evolved, they've changed. But it's just still something you have to consider. So
and it is hard because when you're grieving, right? So you're thinking about your feelings. And so when family is involved, it becomes a little bit harder because they have feelings too, but you're also planning a wedding, you're grieving, and you have everyday life things that are going on. So it is hard. And I think when thinking about how you want to honor and memorialize those loved ones and those individuals, you really have to consider, do I want to do this publicly? Do I want to do this privately? There's also, for those members, if you feel like there's so many, you can just have, a sign like you had mentioned earlier for the ones we've lost, and just kind of keeping it kind of general, just because there might be so many people that you want to make sure that you honor and remember. And it could be even as simple, maybe it's nothing written down, but maybe you make a speech at the end of the night or during your toast, and you just say, hey, we lost a lot of members in our family. We just want to take this opportunity to let everyone know we're thinking about you. And thank you for being here to support us, because maybe it was hard. Auntie was a big part of our family, and now she's gone. But we thank you for coming out tonight to celebrate our love and our relationship. So it, when you're thinking about all of the options that you have, it's great that you have so many options. We have a list here, and there's some great options, but you don't have to do it all. And it doesn't have to be specific to every single person that you've lost, especially if you've lost quite a few bit of, people. And you can kind of keep it to, we're so happy you're here. We do honor these people that we've lost. On an everyday, status, how many times do we think about losing someone? We don't think about losing someone until they've either been gone, or it's unexpected or something like that, or we know that they're sick and the results are not what we want, but we never think about having to lose someone, and it's hard. I can't imagine losing anyone in my family, but I know my grandparents are getting older, and of course they're rushing me, when are you getting married? And it's I do think about those things, because I know that they are here to see me get married, and I know that I'm not the only one in that situation, that there is plenty of people, but tomorrow's not promised to us, to any of us.
Exactly.
And so unfortunately it is something that we have to kind of think about. And I would hope that this list just makes people feel a little bit more comfortable thinking about this type of thing and loss. And it is very hard. I know a lot of people, we all grieve differently, and it hits people harder than others.
Right.
So I would just hope that this is a little bit of a help.
And I think it will, to be honest, because when you lose someone, I'm like, granted, I couldn't imagine losing someone, while I'm planning my wedding, and so it's like, you have to think about every single detail, especially if you are planning your wedding on your own, and so you're having to think of every single detail. And to be honest, like, everyone's not perfect. We are not perfect, so you're going to forget some things. And so, like, when you're getting to this point where you're trying to plan on how to honor your loved one, obviously you may just go straight to the table just because that's what everyone does, So I think this list is definitely going to provide those brides and also those grooms a way to, like, oh, I didn't think of that, of course, because I'm planning my wedding, but then I'm also grieving this loss. So, I really think that this is definitely going to help someone out tremendously.
I hope so.
Definitely. We have a few more questions.
Okay.
I guess, what boundaries should, like, one take when they want to memorialize someone? Like, is there stuff they should do or stuff they shouldn't do, or, like, things they should kind of, like, stay away from in order to, like, prevent from, like, making it, like, too somber of an occasion? Like, what are those parameters?
Yeah, I would definitely say, remember that everyone grieves differently. So if you're going to have family members, there that are more sensitive to things, just making sure that you kind of have that in mind, and maybe giving them a heads up, like, hey, auntie, I'm going to have this memorial table, or I'm going to have these items out, just so that they can expect it and they can get prepared beforehand, and so that they know that it's coming. So that they can just, have a moment, I'm going to see this thing, or I'm going to smell this thing, or I'm going to experience this thing, or remember this memory, and that they can have a moment to kind of, feel those feelings that they're going to feel. I think that would probably be a really good thing to do. And then I would say consider what type of environment and wedding style you're having, because that's also important in considering which one of these suggestions on the list that you're going to incorporate into your wedding. So if you are considering having a very intimate ceremony and then a party vibe reception, including some things like the written notes about memories that may not necessarily fit the style that you want to have, like the party vibe reception. You might want to do that, maybe during cocktail hour, or not doing it at all, and maybe doing something else instead, and maybe incorporating a few details and suggestions in your ceremony, so that way when you get to the reception, it's a little bit more of that party vibe and people can have fun. If you are interested in having more private moments, then just doing those things where, you're getting ready, those getting ready shots, having those pictures with those intimate items from that loved one. Just thinking about what type of style of wedding you want to have and what kind of mood that you want to have throughout the day, and what matches the atmosphere of your wedding that you want to have. Especially because especially the items, they might be more sentimental. And if you're not wanting to have those sentimental moments mixed into your party vibe reception, then you might want to kind of keep those things separate. Those are the things that I would probably think about. Every wedding category, you can do something special. So there's stationery, there's florists, there's bakers, there's catering, there's wedding planning, entertainment, photography, decor, rentals, everything. I think that you just have to be a little bit more thoughtful and sit down and then also remember those sweet moments. What were those sweet moments that you remember about that loved one, and how can you incorporate it into your wedding? The wedding is a celebration, so maybe, like you said, you only pick a few things throughout the day, and maybe you don't do them all at once. I wouldn't recommend doing them all at once.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of sprinkle them throughout the day, so you have, you're getting ready shots, and you have those sweet, items that belong to them, and they bring tear to your eye, but but they're happy tears. You know, you're remembering that person. You're remembering those sweet moments.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe it's something during the ceremony, and then maybe something at the end of the night. So it's kind of sprinkled throughout the day, and that you're not overwhelming yourself emotionally with all of these thoughts and feelings and things.
Yeah.
That you kind of have a little bit of a breathing room to enjoy your wedding day, because you got married, but you also got to enjoy the people that were there with you and honor the people that weren't.
Very good. I like the kind of, hey, if you're going to honor like a certain family member or something, and it's still very sensitive for certain guests, like just kind of giving them that heads up, or making things more private instead of a shared experience, because everything doesn't have to be for everyone, right? Like we can do things, and it doesn't have to be captured. It doesn't have to be an Instagram post or a Facebook post. It still happened if no one captured it and no one shared it out.
And you can have your photographer kind of capture those moments kind of behind the scenes. Right. If you want to have that moment captured, but you're not wanting to share it with your guests as well. So that's another way to kind of make sure that you still capture it, but maybe it's not public.
Exactly.
We only have 2 more questions. Okay. Is it okay to memorialize someone you wouldn't have invited to the wedding if they were still alive?
Yes, I think it's okay to do so. And I also think that it's not, if you choose to. I think it's a personal choice. I would say check in with how you're feeling and where you are emotionally. I think you can memorialize that person in private, or you can have it be shared depending on where you are emotionally. If you were thinking that you weren't going to originally invite them, I think it's a hard choice. I think it's something that you have to sit down and take a sense of, what's going on. You could also do something that honors all of the ones that you've lost, and do like a program and just have a section that says, we're honoring the ones that we've lost, and maybe you list their names, or maybe you don't. You could do any one of the ideas that we had talked about previously, maybe lighting candles, and maybe you don't name the people, but you light those candles in honor of them. So I think it's okay if you choose to, and it's okay if you're not. Whatever you choose, do what makes you comfortable. I know it was probably a hard decision to not want to invite that person if when they were alive, but it's still a loss. And so I think it's important to consider how you're feeling. And if you're feeling like you want to, then by all means. But if you're feeling that you're not wanting to, or you want to kind of do it more privately, and privately different from what we were talking about of all those other private things, like just keeping it to yourself and kind of remembering them on your own and maybe not sharing, that's okay too. I think whatever you choose as a couple, I think is fine. That's because it is a hard decision.
It is.
Can't imagine.
Very difficult decision.
Yeah.
Last question. Any other advice or takeaways for couples considering on honoring their loved ones? I think we went through a long list, but is there anything else that you would probably want to add?
I would add that this is your wedding day, and that loved one contributed to your life, and no one can take that away. I think it's important to remember the good times. Remember that your grieving process is your own, and no one can rush you and say, oh, are you okay now? You may never be okay, and you might be one day. No one can say for sure. I would say make sure that you do what feels good to your heart and what you think would make that person proud. I think that they are already proud of you. They are probably already so excited that you're getting married anyway. And any way that you choose to honor them, whether it's privately or publicly, or just in your own thoughts, maybe you write them a letter, that's, something, a little note that you would have given them if they were here. And maybe you just keep that to yourself. Whatever you choose to do, it's for you, and it's going to be a part of your healing process. And I would just say, talk to your team about it. Whoever that team is, whoever your people are, just talk to them, and make sure that you feel comfortable at what you choose to do.
I love that. This episode was definitely needed.
Yeah. Oh man, so many it kind of felt like a counseling session. Like
it did. It did. Like I didn't want to actually say that, but it really did.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very therapeutic. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so excited that I got to participate in this and to talk about this. And I feel like there are a few things on the wedding side that are hard to talk about, this being probably one of the biggest ones, having that loss. And I think, I have lost my stepfather, and I think that, I did grieve that loss, and he was sick, but I didn't lose him during a pandemic. I didn't lose him while I was planning a wedding or anything. And there are people who are experiencing those things. And so I want to make sure to people who are experiencing any type of loss, whether it's now or 10 years ago or whenever, that any of these suggestions, that they're not just for couples getting married, that it's for anybody who lost someone, and, that they're having an experience, and maybe this might help them, through their grieving process. And I think this is definitely something that needed to be talked about. And I hope that it opens up the door for other hard conversations, with weddings as well, in our industry, and not just with the couples alone, but that our wedding vendors have these types of conversations with each other and with couples.
Definitely. Okay.
Thank you so much, Kathryne.
Yes,
we're not going to let you go just yet. We're going to get into the unsolicited advice portion of the show, which is something we do every episode, where I provide some advice to our listeners, mostly to the brides, sometimes to vendors. But it's, some advice you didn't ask for, because you get that a lot once you actually get engaged. So for this week, the advice is, when you are searching for your vendors, just get advice from couples that have already gotten married or gone through the process, because they have more of a complete perspective of the respective vendors. Not to say that engaged couples or someone that knows someone that, worked with X, Y, and Z won't provide the same level of kind of feedback, but someone that worked with them from start to finish in respect to their own timeline, they might have a fuller picture of how they actually were, on a scale of 0 to 5 stars, how were they honestly? It might have been a 4.3, it might not be a 5, but it's still better than, the majority of vendors out there. So I would really suggest get, if you are searching for a vendor, talk to some of your married couple friends that have already kind of gone through it, so they can tell you kind of the full picture of it all. So that is my advice for this week. All right, Toniah.
Very good advice.
Thank you.
Now we are going to move into the wedding vendor love. So Kathryne, I'm going to have you go ahead and kick it off for us.
Great. Well, I would love to share some wedding vendor love for 3 vendors that I have had the pleasure of working with and that I admire just as businesses, as entrepreneurs. So the first is Tori Dell Photography. Victoria and I have worked together on a style shoot before, and I love how passionate she is about her photography, and she's gotten back into film again, and so she's doing film for her clients as well. And she always has a smile on her face, and I love her disposition. She's very sweet. The other vendor that I'd like to highlight is Tiered and Petite Cakes and Desserts, Miss Cotton Ward. She is amazing at baking. That is her life's passion, and it shows through her smile, through everything that she does. She is passionate about cooking, and she really feeds you from her soul. She wants you to tell you how it tastes. And, even if you don't like it, if you don't prefer that taste, she wants to know that information. Like, she's really passionate about baking and cooking and all that she does. And she's very talented. She can take an idea. I've worked with her on 2 styled shoots, and she and I had these conversations about work that, we hadn't seen in the industry that we really wanted to portray. And she's so open to ideas. So I know for her clients that she just does amazing work. And then last but not least is Event Decor. Miss Lanielle is an event designer, and she does decor and design for weddings and events. And she does fabulous backdrops with balloons and drapery and all different types of centerpieces. And she's just amazing. And she's definitely passionate about what she does. You can see it in her work. You can see it in her videos. You can see it when you talk to her. And I just love seeing the creative ideas that she likes to be challenged and kind of show like a different side of things. So I'm excited to highlight these vendors. And there's so many that I have worked with and that I admire and that I hope to work with someday. But I just wanted to make sure that I highlight these lovely ladies.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Ashleigh, are you prepared? Are you ready?
Yes, I am. So the vendor, and I'm just going to be completely honest. So moving forward, I feel like I'm going to be shouting out a lot of photographers because I have stumbled across so many Black photographers that do kind of the fine art documentarian style that I just love. And so my goal mentally for the upcoming vendor searches to seek out vendors in different areas in different states. So today's vendor is actually a photographer based in Colorado. We haven't shouted out any Colorado-based vendors yet, but her name is Alicia Rinka, and her Instagram is Alicia Rinka Photo. Alicia, Alicia, Rinka, Rinka. And of course, this will be on Instagram and whatnot. But her photography, oh my gosh, I just love like the emotional type of like photography where it feels like this was out of like a high print magazine or something, like, like a luxury print magazine, like a Vogue or like a nice Harper's Bazaar, like shoot, editorial piece. And oh gosh, she is very, very talented, to say the least. And I love a photographer that has range, has, you see them photographing different complexions, different skins. Because to me, when you think of like the editing process, whether you're extremely dark or fair skin, you want to know, will your photographer capture you in the best light and know how to edit you and know how to, appropriately place you in the best places where the light complements you. And, you want a very trained and seasoned photographer, and you definitely see that quality in Alicia Rinka's work. So Colorado brides, definitely look at Alicia Rinka. And I'm sure she probably travels, but she is based in Colorado. So that's it for me, Toniah.
Okay. All right. So this week, in honor of this episode, I wanted to highlight someone who actually makes an item to honor a loved one. Because I love candles, I found a Black-owned candle maker, and she actually does memorial candles. And also, if you want candles for your wedding, she also makes them as well. I think she's located in St. Louis. And if I'm not mistaken, her name is Leonette. Her Instagram is the number 1, and it's One Panda Candle. So we'll have all the information on our Instagram, but her website is pandacandles.co. So definitely look her up. She has a variety of scents. And so if you wanted to have her to make a scent that, was close to your family member scent, definitely ask her. She is, again, located in St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, definitely hit her up if you are in search of a candle maker. because you can definitely get creative with that.
That is a great idea, Toniah. As you were speaking, I was like, you could get custom candles made, and you could have those custom candles made, have them at your wedding, and then you could always order them and have them in your home after the wedding. So it's not just a one-time thing. You could have those, and I definitely am looking up One Panda Candle right now. So if anybody's looking for some candle companies in the DMV area, I have some resources too. So
definitely, it was so hard trying to find a Black-owned company who actually does this. I mean, because of course, I was looking all around, and there's some people on Etsy, but I couldn't find their actual IG page or their website. So this is definitely
I have two. Area. Can I add them?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So one is Wishes and Wicks. Mm-hmm. Her name is Amber. And I actually just ordered candles from her. So this is one of her candles. This one is the citronella.
Okay.
And then I love a good citronella.
Yes.
I have her other one in my bathroom. It's the eucalyptus. So you light it when you take a shower and the steam.
Oh, yes.
I love eucalyptus.
So that's Wishes and Wicks.
Wishes and Wicks. I wrote this down.
I am a candle connoisseur. If you if you go in my bathroom, and I'm kind of not ashamed, but it's a obsession. But if I open it up, there's 2 shelves and they're full of candles, and then I have a big box. It's bad.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I would probably say I have hair products and candles.
Basically, right. Yes, same here.
But the other one is Cozy Wicks. COZY Wicks, and she is amazing. Okay, I'm telling you.
Gosh.
Look her up because she does the oils as well as the candles, and I think both companies are soy candles. And Cozy Wicks, she does the oils, and she also I haven't ordered it yet, but I want to the car. The infuser for the car.
Oh.
Yeah, so she has those, and then it's on my in my cart. I'm getting ready to order those, and she has some other ones, and then I believe Cozy Wicks. I'm not sure about Wishes and Wicks, but I know Cozy Wicks has a partnership available opportunity that if businesses want to make their own custom candles.
Definitely.
Yeah, Cozy and Wicks, and then Wishes and Wicks, and they're both Black owned.
Yes, and yes. If you want to have a specialized candle, please look these people up and they're Black owned, so go support.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited. I'm like, ooh, what scent would people use? I'm interested in hearing all the different combinations of smells that people are gonna, and then. You don't just have to use them at your ceremony. You can use them throughout the whole wedding, the reception. And, one of the things that I did for this couple, they had the sparkly lights, the LED lights that you turn them on. And I put them in glass jars, and they were throughout the whole ceremony reception space. I added some in the bathrooms to kind of continue that, idea and kind of carry on the theme. And so there were 4 of them on the bathroom sink when they washed their hands in the glass jar. So it's you could have them in the candles in the bathrooms too. So you can carry it throughout the whole space, and it can be a whole wedding day or wedding weekend, scent that everybody gets to enjoy.
I love that. I'm already going to do candles at my wedding, but now with this idea, this added idea, they're going to be all candles out.
You know how you walk into these stores, who is it, Abercrombie, I think, and they have their own scent, and you don't even have to be in the store. You could be down the hall in the mall, and you can already smell it. So why not do that for your own wedding?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? The medical side of me is thinking about all the people who may be allergic to the smells, but
Oh, yeah.
Well, and you can have it very subtly, right? So maybe you don't have it on all your tables, but maybe you have it at the entrance or, kind of in strategic places throughout so that it smells the room up, but it's not overpowering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something you can consider when you're working with these candle companies, that they can help you kind of make sure that they have the right adjustments of, those scents and things that are more powerful than others. And, there's ways that we can make sure that grandma's not sneezing.
Does anyone object?
Right. That would be my stepmom. Oh my gosh.
I'm like, it'd be my grandma. She would be like, what is that smell? I'm like, Grandma, does she love it? I love the smell. She's like, no.
Maybe it's a little too much.
Oh gosh.
Oh goodness. Well, Kathryne, where can people find you, follow you, learn more about Grace and Virtue?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, I am Grace and Virtue Events, all spelled out. And then I am on Twitter, and it is Grace and Virtue _. I don't know why, but Twitter, you can't have all those characters, so.
Yeah.
But I am Grace and Virtue Events at all social media points, and my website is www.graceandvirtueevents.com.
Very nice. Toniah? Oh my God. Toniah, where can they find us?
All right. So you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn at Hue I Do Wed. Yes. And then also you can find us at hueido.com. And you can also find Ashleigh at Demitosh on Instagram and Twitter. And then you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Belsori. I'm never on Twitter, except that there's like a versus. But
I was going to say, only if there's a versus on, she's on Twitter. She's not usually on Twitter, though.
I think I'm the same way. I prefer Instagram and Facebook, and I love Pinterest. So I'm on Pinterest as well.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely.
And my
on
LinkedIn
Pinterest.
is my name, Kathryne Carter. I forgot to mention that. But I prefer Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest. Like, those are probably like my top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, I feel like Twitter, you have to like have that back and forth with people. And I'm never on there, like to tweet, like I'm never on there long enough to do all that. So I just post randomly and I don't.
Man, like there's like so many times where I want to tweet out and then I'm like, nah, because I don't want that to follow me.
Well, you can now change the visibility.
Oh yeah.
They just added that. I love Twitter. I'm on Twitter like all the time. Like Twitter and Instagram are like my tops. I think Twitter, honestly, before Instagram for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very close though.
Anything. Yeah.
I wasn't like, it took me a while to like
Twitter
warm up to Instagram.
Word and like word targeted. It's not like, Instagram and Facebook, they're more visual and their pictures. Yeah. Like for me, Twitter is so wordy.
Yeah.
A better word, that I'm just like, I'm such a creative that I'm not like, I tend to steer toward like the creative social media. So like Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook, like I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll tweet a little bit more now that they've changed the guidelines and stuff like that, because there's so many things that I want to say throughout the day. Like I'll go to Twitter and be like, but then I like delete.
What does it mean for them to change the visibility?
So you can like have it where the replies are I'm assuming because they say the replies are based on these 3 tiers, that these are the 3 tiers that can see what you're pushing out. So let me fully research that. But it's either everybody in the world, if you have a public page, everyone, people you follow, or people you at. So like if you intentionally say, like Toniah, I only want Toniah to see this, I only want Toniah to respond, I have to set that setting.
Okay.
So
I need to step up my Twitter game, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
This was so fun, guys. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I mean, we enjoyed this so much. Like, I feel like you're going to be one of the ones that were like, hey, come back.
I would love it.
All right. So this was great.
Yes.
Episode. Thanks for listening.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
So, we've got a #1 deluxe meal. Is there anything else I can get you?
Yeah, I'd also like a good night's sleep. Maybe something like the I didn't struggle all night with my uncomfortable CPAP mask.
Sir, I think what you're looking for is Inspire. It's an implant that works inside your body to treat sleep apnea without a CPAP.
Come on! He sounds hangry. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.